Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Clark from the Center for Weight Loss Success, and welcome to this podcast of Weight Loss Surgery Success. Today, we're going to talk about getting started with exercise and getting towards running your first 5K. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Again, this is Dr. Clark, and today we're going to be talking about getting towards running your first 5K, and we've got a special guest with us today. We've got Jim Bradley. He's one of the personal trainers here, but he has a lot of experience in getting people kind of off the couch and getting into that 5K mindset. Welcome, Jim. Say hello.
Hey, Doc. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
And Jim, you've got a background obviously in fitness, but kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with this, and how you got so kind of, I guess, as part of your passions of helping people get to this point where they can do some of these things.
Certainly. I've been a competitive athlete most of my life, and I was a high school runner, and I've migrated from doing what we call duathlons, run bike runs, to full triathlons. And in the process, because I enjoy the coaching aspect of it, I became certified as a USA track and field coach, a USA triathlon coach, USA cycling coach, and as I mentioned, I'm also a high school coach as well here in the local area. What I really like about the coaching aspects especially for adults, is people that have never been quote physical, or people who think that I'm not a runner. Because, runners in people's minds have the stereotype what a runner looks like. We all remember the high school kid that weighed 120 pounds soaking wet, and looked like a beanpole. Well, runners today, and I'm certainly not a beanpole, come all different shapes, sizes, and things of that nature. So having people, achieve this first step, because I've worked with people that have never run before. They've done a 5K. Now they're off doing triathlons. They're talking to me about, what's it take to do a half Ironman triathlon? So it's very rewarding for me as a trainer and a coach to be able to coach people along to do those kind of things, because really, it's about what a person wants to achieve. And just seeing people, get moving and have that kind of work ethic and things it takes to do that is really rewarding to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point there. Now, if I'm, I'm not an athlete, I've never really done much running. It's something I've thought about. Now, before I begin, a couple things we ought to get done though, right?
Well, absolutely. One of the first things that you want to do is make sure, before you even start lacing up the shoes for the first time, you want to get a medical clearance from your doctor. You want to make sure that you're healthy enough, for physical activity, such as this. Make sure that, if there's any conditions on your running, if there's any conditions specific like a heart rate, things like that, those are the types of things you want to make sure that a person's cleared for before they begin any type of training program, whether it's a running program or any other type of exercise program.
Right. I think that's a very good point. Get your physician kind of on board. Make sure you don't have some underlying problem that from a medical aspect this would be unsafe for you to do. But for most people, basically starting physical activity is something your physician is going to encourage you to do, and if you have some limitations, they'll likely go over that with you. But it is something important to do ahead of time. So now when I'm okay, now I've got this clearance to do, and I'm okay to start, and sometimes mentally getting really prepared to start. I know I want to do it, but boy, sometimes those hurdles can be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. The mental hurdles can be just as crippling as a person being out of shape. A lot of people have, like, again, as I said earlier, in their mind what a stereotype runner is. Well, I want to take that and just kind of throw it out for a moment, because, runners come in all kinds of shapes, sizes, and colors, and et cetera. So really, you just got to go in there with an open mind and say, hey, I'm going to get through this, and don't listen to those little demons in the back of your mind that all of us have us. And even competitive athletes, even Olympic athletes, wrestle with those demons. And when they talk about them, it's a whole discipline called sports psychology. And so, we can certainly talk a little more about that down the road. But really, you just got to understand that, you can do what you can do. You're not out there trying to set a personal record right from the start. A personal record would be it's going across the finish line.
Right. Yeah, especially you said all colors and shapes and that. It reminded me that brought that picture of the Color Me Rad braces that are out there, the really colorful stuff. It's like that. It's pretty incredible, those pictures that you see out there. Now, kind of getting started though, kind of a support system, that can be very beneficial too, and it can come in all shapes and sizes as well.
Oh, absolutely. Having training with a friend, is a great way, or if there's any like local running clubs, or if you contract with a coach, those are certainly ways to get started as well, because it's really, when you have to get up and go run, especially when you haven't done it before, it's really hard sometimes to get motivated in order to do that. Now, when you're accountable to another person, you're accountable to a group, you're accountable to a coach, it's kind of more, you got someone kind of kicking you in the rear end a little bit to get you motivated, to get you going. And it's good. When you're feeling down, it's that person, it's kind of that cheerleader, if you will, that'll give you that, little punch in the arm and say, no, you can do it, and you're doing great, even though, the weather may be cold outside, it may be raining outside or whatever, but we need to go get a little bit of a run in. And it's very great, because always, I like to tell people misery loves company. So therefore, it's great to be able to do that.
Right. The support system and support side can be very important. So the buddy system works wonderfully. Now, if I'm just getting started, we do have to be a little careful. Obviously, I don't want to get hurt. I'd want to get started and make progress to where I'm going, but sometimes people dive in too fast, so to speak, and they don't look where they're going, or however one wants to put that, and we need to be a little careful.
Absolutely. And kind of a good mindset I like to adapt and have people do is, you need to start where you're at rather than where you want to be. So in other words, if down the road you want to be able to run a 25-minute 5K, you don't need to start training like you're running a 25-minute 5K. You need to start where you're at today. Initially, what that really means is, you're going to probably jog a little bit, walk some, jog some, walk some. It's kind of a handoff kind of exchange. For example, a person may be jogging for 2 minutes, walking for 2 minutes, jogging for 2 minutes, walking for 2 minutes. Those are kinds of things that, we like to see beginning runners start to do. We don't have expectations of a person, especially if they've never done a 5K or have done any running before, to run the 3.1 miles right from the get-go. You have to train for it, just like anything else. You just can't get up one day and say, I'm going to do a 5K, throw the tennis shoes on and go do it. You've got to properly prepare for it. And that means because you won't get injured. You've got to kind of ramp up slowly with this, add miles to it. And sooner or later, what's going to happen is as you start expanding your training program, if you're working with a coach or whatever, you're going to be running 3 minutes, walking 2 minutes. Then down the road, you'll be running 4 minutes, walking 1 minute. And hopefully you'll get to a point where you're running 5 minutes, maybe 30 seconds. And then hopefully down the road, even further than that, you'll get to a point where, you're making even more progress toward that, that 5K goal.
Right. So say I'm, I have this goal of running a 5K, and is there a time frame that I really want to start, or say if I'm starting today, when is it realistic, and I know it's going to be individualized there, of thinking that, okay, I can participate in a 5K, is there a certain length of time that you're going to recommend and things like that?
Really, and that's a good question, and it really kind of depends on several things, as you indicated. How old the person is, what their physical shape are, and what type of time commitment they actually have. Typically, what I like folks to do, I like to have them train at least 3 days per week, for 1 day separation between the sessions, and they try to allow them about 10 weeks. Now, you can actually go, and there are programs out there where you can go 8 weeks or 6 weeks, but giving yourself 10 weeks is a really good amount of time, because that way allows a person to ramp up a little bit slower, and that way you don't have to worry about those little, nagging little injuries and things that may come up along the way. You have some leeway, and you can adjust that as a person, as developing. But, bottom line, about 10 weeks or so is what I like to see.
And when you're seeing that 10 week, say I have that 10 week time frame, And you mentioned kind of starting out with those kind of 3 days a week, but do you really try to map out kind of where you want to be along the stages there and say, okay, these are like mini goals? Does that work pretty well?
Absolutely. That's a great way. And we call that basically a training plan. And basically we develop a training plan for a person, and you have weekly goals. Weekly goals will be, we're going to try to run X amount of miles this week. We're only going to try to walk this many times a week. And oh, by the way, let's throw some cross training in there. Let's spend some time spinning on the bike for a little bit so we're not running every day. Let's not forget about getting into the gym, lifting a few weights here and there so we maintain our upper body strength. Those types of things, that blueprint. It's always good when a person starts, and even to me, I'm very fanatical about this. I like to have an objective. Just getting on the treadmill, going outside and just running, well, that's great for recreation. But if you're trying to actually achieve a goal, a race down the road, it's nice to be able to map this out to decide what I'm going to accomplish this week, because that way you have a purpose. When you lace up those tennis shoes and you get to go, what am I going to do today? And so, check that off for your day's objective. You map that to your week goals, and then for your month goal, what you're trying to do. And then if you do that, you stay diligent with it, when it comes to race day, you'll be ready to go.
Right. And this is where coaching can really be beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a coach is a great person to have. Of course, my high school students, athletes, may disagree with that sometimes, but my adult clients that certainly would believe that coaching is a great thing, because again, it holds a person accountable. And a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they have no idea how to go about this. And so, getting with like a USA track and field certified coach that, understands how to develop training programs and can work with all types of runners and their abilities, from competitor runners to recreational runners, is a great way to start.
All right, Jim, that was great. We're going to kind of wind this down here. So if you had like a couple of tips for someone, if you were going to say these are the most important things to consider if I'm thinking about doing that 5K in 10 weeks, what would you say that is? Okay,
first one is, get the medical clearance from your doctor. Make sure you get that done. And, and take these mental hurdles, these roadblocks that you have in your mind, what you think a typical runner looks like. There is no such thing as a typical runner. Throw that out of your mind. Make sure that, you have a support group or get with a coach, and make sure that, you're following the plans of the coach, making sure that you're following the training plan. Don't try to freelance. You need to make sure that when you go into this, athletes need to be what we call coachable. And that means you're going to take the advice of the coach, and the coach is there to be the good cop sometimes, the bad cop somebody, and be that little voice in the ear that's going to be nagging you, from time to time. So basically, those are kind of the takeaways, what you need to do. But, if you have the desire in your heart and you're cleared by your doctor, the first race, it's not about time. The first race is about completion, getting across the line. And once you get the bug, stand by, because then, you're going to start signing up for races, and then you're going to start talking the lingo. You're going to be watching what you eat, and you're going to be all, what runners do. Runners and athletes can be very fanatical people, and so that, but it really catches on, and it's a great way, to help keep a healthy heart and achieve personal goals as well.
That's absolutely correct. I agree. And soon we'll be headed to Hawaii, and we'll be doing the Ironmans, right?
That's right. I mean, there's Ironman down the road. So, if the 5K is not challenging enough for you, you can always throw a 2-mile swim in there, 112 miles on the bike, and a 26.2-mile run afterwards, if that's not, good enough for you.
We'll start out smaller, though. All right. Well, thank you very much. If you want more information or you have questions for Jim, you can reach him through the Center for Weight Loss Success. The email is success@cfws.com. If you just want more information, more access to me, I do a webinar every single week. It's Losing Weight USA. I would encourage you, go to www.losingweightUSA.com. You can sign up, get more information. Take care, everyone. Thank you again, Jim, and we will see you all on the next podcast. Take care.
Thank you.